Living alone after 50 isn't just about empty rooms and quiet dinners. It's about confronting a reality that 40% of Americans over 45 are experiencing right now, according to the latest AARP research. The number of people aging solo has tripled since 1950, and most of us aren't prepared for what that actually means. Not financially, not emotionally, and certainly not practically. Here at Marçal's Quiet Wisdom, we believe in facing life's transitions with honesty and grace, offering wisdom for life, love, and the years ahead. Today, we're talking about the truths that nobody discusses when it comes to living alone after 50. Not the romanticized version of independence, but the real experience that 22 million Americans are navigating right now. The first truth is that loneliness hits differently in your 50s than it did in your 20s. When you're young and living alone, there's an assumption that it's temporary. You're building towards something, meeting people, establishing your career. After 50, the silence carries weight. You're not just alone for the evening, you're potentially alone for decades. The AARP study shows that people experiencing loneliness spend an average of 7.3 hours alone each day, compared to 5.6 hours for their non-lonely counterparts. That's nearly 2 extra hours of solitude daily, which compounds into something profound over months and years. Margaret, a 54-year-old teacher from Ohio, described it perfectly when she said that evenings became the hardest part. Not because she couldn't fill the time, but because there was nobody to share the small moments with. The funny thing that happened at work, the concern about a strange noise the car was making, the decision about whether to buy the expensive olive oil at the grocery store. These micro-conversations that married couples take for granted become internal monologues when you're living alone. The second truth involves money, and it's harsher than most people realize. The data shows that 20% of older adults living alone are in poverty, compared to just 6% of those living with others. This isn't just about having one income instead of two. It's about the fundamental economics of solo living. You can't split the rent, the utilities, the car insurance, or the cost of home repairs. When the furnace breaks down in January, there's no partner to help absorb that $1,500 emergency expense. But it goes deeper than shared costs. Healthcare becomes exponentially more expensive when you're managing it alone. The median cost for a home health aide is over $5,000 per month nationally. If you need help with daily activities and you don't have family members to provide that care, you're looking at professional services that can quickly consume an entire Social Security check. The Business Insider recently featured a solo ager who said it feels like flying without a net, and that captures the financial vulnerability perfectly. The third truth is about health emergencies, and this one keeps many solo agers awake at night. When you live with someone, there's built-in monitoring. Your spouse notices if you're moving differently, if your speech seems off, if you're not eating normally. They're there if you fall in the shower, if you have chest pains at 3 in the morning, or if you simply don't wake up at your usual time. Living alone means you are your own early warning system, and sometimes that's not enough. Consider what happened to James, a 58-year-old architect in Denver. He had a minor stroke on a Thursday evening while watching television. Because he lived alone, and because the stroke affected his ability to use his phone, he didn't get help until Saturday afternoon, when his neighbor noticed his newspapers piling up. Those 36 hours made the difference between a full recovery and permanent limitations. This isn't meant to frighten anyone, but it illustrates why solo agers need different safety strategies than people who live with others. The fourth truth concerns social connections, and it's more complex than simply feeling lonely. When you're married or living with family, Social obligations often happen automatically. You attend your spouse's work functions, you visit their relatives, you maintain friendships as a couple. When you're living alone after 50, maintaining social connections requires intentional effort, and that effort becomes harder as you age. The research shows that adults in their late 40s actually experience the highest rates of loneliness, at 49%, which suggests that this is when many people are first confronting the reality of solo living. The challenge isn't just making friends, it's maintaining the energy and motivation to stay socially engaged when it would be easier to stay home. It's finding your tribe when many of your peers are focused on their marriages, their grandchildren, or their own aging parents. It's navigating social situations designed for couples when you're flying solo. Holiday invitations become awkward. Dinner parties require careful thought about seating arrangements. Even simple activities like going to movies or concerts can feel conspicuous when you're surrounded by pairs. The fifth truth is about decision-making, and this might surprise you. When you live alone, every decision is yours to make, which sounds liberating until you realize the weight of that responsibility. Should you move to a smaller place? Is it time to stop driving at night? Do you need to hire someone to help with yard work? These decisions don't just affect you, they shape your future independence and quality of life. Without a partner to discuss options with, to share the research burden, or to provide a different perspective, decision-making can become overwhelming. Sarah, a 61-year-old widow in Portland, told me that she spent 3 months researching whether to replace her aging car or repair it, not because the decision was particularly complex, but because she had nobody to talk through the pros and cons with. She found herself calling her adult daughter repeatedly, not because she couldn't make the decision, but because she missed having someone who was equally invested in the outcome. The sixth truth addresses the practical aspects of home maintenance and daily life management. When you live with someone, responsibilities naturally divide. One person might handle the finances, while the other manages household repairs. One might cook while the other does yard work. Living alone means you're responsible for everything, or you need to hire help for the tasks you can't manage yourself. This becomes more challenging as you age and your physical capabilities change. The ladder that you climbed confidently at 55 might seem dangerous at 68. The financial management that felt straightforward might become overwhelming if your cognitive abilities shift even slightly. The social isolation can make it harder to find reliable help because you don't have the same network of recommendations that couples often share with each other. But here's the seventh truth, and it's more hopeful than the others. Living alone after 50 can also offer profound gifts that people in relationships might never experience. There's a depth of self-knowledge that comes from spending significant time with your own thoughts, your own rhythms, your own preferences. There's freedom to reinvent yourself without needing to consider another person's opinions or comfort level. There's peace in making your environment exactly what nurtures you, from the temperature of the house to the music you play to the schedule you keep. Many solo agers discover creative abilities they never knew they had, pursue interests that their former lifestyle didn't accommodate, or develop spiritual practices that bring deep satisfaction. The silence that initially feels empty can become restorative. The independence that initially feels scary can become empowering. Now, let's talk about practical strategies for thriving while living alone after 50. The first strategy is to build what experts call a chosen family. This means intentionally cultivating relationships with people who can provide some of the support functions that family members traditionally offer. This might include a neighbor who has your spare key and checks on you regularly, a friend who accompanies you to medical appointments, or a group of peers who share holiday meals together. The second strategy involves financial planning that accounts for the realities of solo living. This means building a larger emergency fund than financial advisors typically recommend for couples, because you can't rely on a partner's income if something happens to your job or health. It means researching long-term care insurance options early, while you're still healthy enough to qualify for reasonable rates. It means considering housing options that will work for you at 80, not just at 60. The third strategy is creating systems for health and safety monitoring. This might mean investing in medical alert devices, scheduling regular check-ins with friends or family members, or using smartphone apps that can detect falls or unusual patterns in your daily activity. It means being proactive about preventive healthcare and building relationships with medical providers who understand your situation. The fourth strategy focuses on social connection maintenance. This requires treating social activities like important appointments rather than optional extras. It means saying yes to invitations, even when staying home feels easier. It means hosting gatherings yourself, even if they're simple. It means volunteering for causes you care about, joining clubs or groups related to your interests, or taking classes where you'll meet like-minded people regularly. The fifth strategy involves creating structure and meaning in your daily life. When you live alone, it's easy for days to blur together without the natural rhythms that other people's schedules provide. Successful solo agers often create their own structure through regular activities, whether that's morning walks, weekly grocery shopping on the same day, or evening phone calls with friends or family members. Consider the approach that Robert, a 63-year-old retired engineer in Arizona, developed after his divorce. He created what he calls his weekly rhythm. Monday mornings are for household tasks and meal planning. Tuesday and Thursday evenings are reserved for social activities, whether that's dinner with friends, a community meeting, or a cultural event. Wednesday afternoons are for outdoor activities. Friday evenings are intentionally kept free for spontaneous plans or rest. This structure gives his week shape without being rigid. The sixth strategy is about preparing for the future while enjoying the present. This means having honest conversations with trusted friends or family members about your wishes for aging and end-of-life care. It means organizing your financial and legal documents so that someone can step in if needed. It means considering housing options that will support you as you age, whether that's modifying your current home for accessibility or researching communities that offer graduated levels of care. But perhaps the most important strategy is shifting your mindset about living alone. Instead of viewing it as a temporary situation to be endured until something better comes along, or as a failure to maintain relationships, consider it as a valid and potentially fulfilling life path. This doesn't mean pretending that the challenges don't exist, but it means approaching them as problems to be solved, rather than evidence that something is wrong with your life. The research shows that people who thrive living alone often share certain characteristics. They're proactive about maintaining their health and independence. They're intentional about social connections. They've developed interests and activities that bring them joy and meaning. They've accepted that some aspects of living alone are challenging, while appreciating the unique benefits it offers. They've also learned to distinguish between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness is the painful feeling that comes from a lack of meaningful connection with others. Solitude is the peaceful state of being alone, without feeling lonely. The goal isn't to eliminate all alone time, which would be impossible when you live solo, but to transform as much of that alone time as possible, from loneliness into solitude. This transformation often happens gradually. It might start with learning to enjoy a quiet cup of coffee in the morning without immediately reaching for your phone or turning on the television. It might develop into appreciating the freedom to read for hours without interruption, or to pursue a hobby that requires concentration and space. Over time, many solo agers discover that they've developed a relationship with themselves that people in busy households might never experience. The truth about living alone after 50 is that it's both harder and more rewarding than most people expect. It requires more intentional planning, more proactive social effort, and more financial preparation than living with others. But it also offers opportunities for personal growth, creative expression, and peaceful contentment that shouldn't be underestimated. The key is preparation and acceptance. Prepare for the practical challenges by building support systems, creating safety nets, and planning for the future. Accept that this path will have different rhythms and requirements than living with others, but that doesn't make it a lesser choice. Many of the most interesting, creative, and fulfilled people you'll meet are those who've learned to thrive in their own company while maintaining meaningful connections with others. As we age, all of our living situations become more complex. Married couples face their own challenges with health changes, financial pressures, and shifting family dynamics. The goal isn't to avoid all difficulties, but to approach whatever situation you're in with wisdom, preparation, and hope. Living alone after 50 is simply one path among many, and like all paths, it has both obstacles and unexpected beautiful views along the way. Thank you for spending this time with us today, exploring these important truths together. Remember that your story is still being written, and there's wisdom, love, and meaningful years ahead, regardless of your living situation. Here at Marçal's Quiet Wisdom, we're honored to be part of your journey toward understanding life's transitions with grace and practical wisdom. If this conversation resonated with you, we'd be grateful if you'd share it with someone who might benefit from hearing these truths. What's one small step you could take this week to strengthen your support system or enhance your living situation?